Hey, it's Michael here from the Heavy Hockey Podcast. My guest on today's episode was Amy Jones, the mother of Oilers prospect Caleb Jones and Columbus Blue Jackets star defenseman Seth Jones. You can find her on Twitter at AmyJones_03. What a wonderful guest to have on. I hope you enjoy the interview. Please make sure you subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, wherever you find your podcasts, on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter at Oilers Live. Enjoy.
From Section 204, Heavy Hockey Podcast with Michael and Guess. Heavy hockey isn't dead. It's just getting started.
Hey, it's Michael here from the Heavy Hockey Podcast, and I've got as my guest today, I've got Amy Jones, who us Oilers fans know better as the mother of Caleb Jones. And for a great deal of the NHL hockey community, they know you, Amy, as the mother of Seth Jones, who's currently in the playoffs right now, playing for Columbus. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks so much for inviting me on.
Yeah, well,
I'm happy to be here.
we're definitely happy to have you here and talk to you and get a little bit of insight into, you know, what it's like being the mother of an Oilers prospect and the mother of a current NHL player, and maybe some of the, you know, if there's some good stories that you can tell that you won't get into any trouble from the boys, then please maybe we can share those at some point today. I want to start first off by saying, you know, congratulations to you and Seth. What a wonderful game last night it must have been for you, as Seth scores the game winner for Columbus. Yeah, where were you when that happened? Were you at the game?
No, I wasn't. I was at home, and I kind of saved last night for myself. So I was by myself, didn't want to watch with anyone. I was too nervous. So I was at home pacing. I don't think I sat down for one moment of the game. I think I was pacing the entire time from living room to bedroom, talking to the TV, you know, kind of. I think I was a nervous wreck. I'm surprised I'm alive today. I think the heart rate was up a little bit last night.
I have no doubt, and probably a little bit sad after the first period, no doubt.
Well, yeah, that was the first goal actually.
Yeah,
being that there was a mistake made, you know, and it's your kid, and you're like, what? You know, you're screaming at the TV, or like they can hear you. And you're just hoping that they, you know, and for him, I'm just hoping that he lets that go. And he's always been really good about that as a kid. It's something we've worked with our kids on, is and when you make a mistake, you do everything in your power to make up for it, you know. And thank goodness he did, and he did it in a big way.
Yeah, he sure did. And it was pretty exciting. I was watching the game live. Knowing that you and I would be talking today, I certainly had a little bit more excitement there for you. But what a great goal, and I'm sure you must be proud, as you have been probably numerous times in your life. I did have, in preparation for this, you know, you bring up that you'd like the kids to be accountable for their mistakes. You know, in preparing for this, of course, I found an article titled "Mom, Don't Read This," which for those of you listening, you can find, and I'll put it in the show notes on the Players Tribune. How long? That was this year, right? Not that long ago, a couple months ago, maybe.
Oh yeah, recently. Yeah, it was just a couple months ago.
And so, you know, I found that interesting. I mean, there's a couple points in there that Seth brings up. You know, Datsuk, of course, coming down on him on the wing, and Panarin, and just some of the mistakes that he made. That, you know, the first time it sounds like Torts might have sat him for a period. But you're right there. I mean, you know, as his mom, you support those decisions and support that accountability. And is that always been the
really
case?
Do.
Yeah.
It's always. I've always been probably a little harder on my kids than maybe they even deserve. But I just, I just believe in that. I believe if you make a mistake, that's how you learn from it. Is you suffer the consequences of those mistakes. So if you're, not doing what you're supposed to be doing, then that's what happens. So I think Seth, that was kind of a shocker when Torts got him. I hate to call him Torts, but that's what everyone calls him.
That's what everybody calls him. Yeah.
But, but it was he made 3 huge mistakes that period, and so I thought it was kind of cool. He was probably a little bit embarrassed, and but I just really believe sometimes that's what's wrong with kids today is they don't understand the consequences of the choices they make, the decisions in life in general.
Yeah. Because
they're never held accountable. They forget something at school, the parent brings it up to them. They, don't do their homework, we cover for them. We're not really teaching them any. You could just really get me started here. I can go.
No,
life in general is what I believe. But yes, the one question was I do believe in that, and I like that my sons, all of them have really had some good coaches who were disciplinary and really taught them how to respect the game, respect their teammates, and just in general, respect what you're doing and have respect for yourself.
Yeah. I'm all right going down this track for a little bit. I think, having you on the show is a lot about, some of those people that listen and tune in and subscribe to the podcast. They're hockey parents too. And, I think as parents and people around the game, we all want to know, what can we do better? And, the one thing I had on my last show, I had the director of sport integrity for the International Center for Sport Safety. And, we were talking, like, I wanted to know what's important about this. I mean, this is, it's just a game. Well, it isn't. I mean, we live and we breathe this, hockey, and as Oilers fans, we all know so well how upset we get when something goes wrong with our team. Culturally, this is so important to us, sport, and means so much. So, to hear some of what goes into building an athlete, not just from, obviously there's some natural talent, but there's a lot of hard work and a lot of parenting that goes into that. And so I'm happy to hear what you have to say about that. Let's talk about that, because you've got 3 boys. 2 of them are quite involved in hockey. Caleb and both Caleb and Seth played for Portland, right? And
right.
Were you able to spend a lot of time in Portland and watch a lot of their games?
Yes, I did go up there quite a bit, and lucky for me, they both lived with the same billet family, one after the other, so it was very comfortable, very easy transition for them both. And but no, I did. I spent quite a bit of time there, and really enjoyed it. Actually, I never anticipated that my kids would go to the WHO, the Canadian Hockey League. I always envisioned them going to college and a U.S. college and playing college hockey. So Portland is just an excellent organization all the way around. So it was a really nice experience for them, and I learned quite a bit as well.
And when they were that young age, and for those of you that get a chance to read the article by Seth, were you as involved at that point? I mean, I really kind of found it amusing to hear that you're texting Seth mid game. I think that's fantastic. Have you always been like that? I mean, have you been that active, or is this something that's kind of, as they get more and more into these competitive leagues, that has grown into you're more invested.
I have always been involved from the get-go. Always. I mean, that's just the type of person I am, the type of parent that I am. I'm just always there. So whether it was skating lessons, camps, whatever it was, I was always there watching, making sure they were working hard. Just everything. I've always been right there. The texting, unfortunately, or fortunately, either way, it could go either way. The iPhone wasn't out when they were much younger.
Yeah.
So I could, the texting, you had the Motorola Razor where you were pushing, the number 3 times to get to the letter. So that wasn't really happening. I couldn't send the text messages. But as soon as, as they did have them, I've definitely sent messages and, oh gosh, it's kind of embarrassing. Yeah, I've just always felt like I've been part of it. I've just been a part of it all. You're driving them, you're there, you're watching their practice, you see their, their mistakes or the great things that they do, and you're there with all the parents. It's like a family. Hockey is such a family sport. I can't even explain how important and what a role it's played in, for me as a parent, for my kids, their upbringing, the things it's taught them about life and time management and respect for others, even if you don't frickin' like them, or, respect for your coach, even if I don't like them, it's really taught, it's just been such a huge part of my family and our life and who we are today.
Yeah.
Honestly, it really has.
Yeah, and that's no surprise. So let's start with Seth, and then I'm curious about Caleb, of course. If you could think of one sort of memory for Seth that might be, in your mind, one that I'm sure there's lots to choose from, but the first one that comes to mind that is, one of the biggest memories you have of him during his hockey career, from whether it's minor leagues or as a minor rather, and then the same for Caleb. So for Seth, what's kind of one memory that sticks out for you?
Wow, and to be honest, I can't even just pick just one memory. There are so many. He's just done so many things, but probably like right now it's in the outside of the draft or the NHL or like that, the World Junior Championships in 2013. He went into that. Mark Masters interviewed him and asked him, if he thought they were the team to beat. And, this is the year of the lockout. Mm-hmm. You've got Taylor Hall and Nugent Hopkins and those guys playing for Team Canada. And Steph was like, I think we're the team to beat. Of course, what was he going to say? That his team is not the team to beat? So I can remember this is when Twitter was going, and man, he just got bombarded, with particularly the Canadian fans, on saying that. I mean, he just was taking it left and right.
Yeah.
But when they won that gold medal, I don't know what it was about that moment. Like, he did it. That monkey was off his back. Because I just remember, like, you got to be careful what you say in the media. Like, you can't say stuff like that. And but that moment was really cool. It was just a huge win. We weren't expected to win that tournament. Canada was the favorite all the way, and there was something really big about that year and that moment. That was his draft year, and beating. They didn't play Canada for the gold medal, but they knocked them out in the semis, which was kind of the gold medal game. So I would say that's probably one of the top ones that comes to mind for him.
Yeah. I think, probably winning a championship for your country is always going to be one of those really special moments, and not great for us Canadians, but certainly good for him. Yeah. And, that's a good story. I think, he was he had to be 17, 18 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
those are some early lessons to learn. But he backed it up. That's great. What about Caleb?
Well, yeah. Well, and let me just
Oh,
make
yeah,
one more
sure.
comment about
Yeah,
that. It
for
wasn't really, it wasn't really just about that he did that. It was kind of just that whole tournament and the fact, you had all these great players. You had NHL guys playing for Team Canada, and it was really the whole thing that memory sticks with me because there was so much drama throughout the whole tournament. but yeah, winning with that team, when they weren't supposed to, and all that was really just a special time. So moving on to Caleb. Gosh, with Caleb, I don't know if there's one particular moment with Caleb. Caleb's, his path wasn't quite as easy as this. I don't want to say easy, but just kind of flowed exactly the way he planned it. And Caleb has had some ups and downs, and he's a little bit, Seth is overly mature for his age, and Caleb, is just a kid, so he developed a little bit later.
Yep.
But for me, it wasn't really about a moment. I think it was more of about his breakout year, which was with Portland. He was at the U.S. program, and he wasn't one of the top D, and he really, really had to work and struggle through, he was used to being one of the top D, going to not being one of the top D. That's always adjustment for kids. And he went through that through the U.S. program. And the minute that he got out of there and got to Portland, he had just an amazing year, a breakout year with 60-something points. And really, he flourished that season, and it all just came together. And it's really so more about a timeline with him, of watching him really grow, all just, coming together for him.
Yeah. And I think, as Oilers fans, we've been a bit of a part of that as well. And really, me as a fan, I watch every game. I watch Caleb in Bakersfield quite often. In fact, when I get a chance to watch the Bakersfield games, he's just, it's just like you said, he's starting to flourish. He's starting to come into his game. Mm-hmm. Did the two of them, and I'm just curious about this because I know, if it were my brother and I, Caleb actually surpassed Seth in points in Portland in his last year there. Does he jab his brother about that at all?
Oh, yeah, there was a bet. I think they had a bet Caleb's first year, and it was if Caleb had more points than him that year, Seth had to pay for every single thing Caleb did, ate, anything, training, gas, whatever it was, he had to pay for his entire summer, whatever he wanted, just everyday living. And, Seth didn't think there was any way that was going to happen. And of course it did. We heard about that. Everywhere. You got that, Seth? Where's your credit card? But he honored it the whole time. We had it the whole entire summer. It was constant. But, it is. But there's not a lot he can jab him on, but that's one thing he does. A lot of things he'll do as well as he'll play the NHL game, and he'll, try to negotiate a deal with Seth and say he's way overpaid. But he's not paying him that. He's not worth it. Things like that.
Yeah, good brotherly love, right? And I think yesterday it was the International Day of Siblings, too, as a matter of fact.
I don't think they posted of each other. I should have got on to them about that.
Yeah.
Post something with your,
well,
it's
about
that one. Yeah.
It's been good to watch Caleb grow as a player, and I'm sure as being his mother and being active on Twitter as you are, and the Oilers community really, I think anyway, and maybe I'm wrong, seemingly welcoming you into the Oilers Twitter fold. It's been. What's it feel like when there seems to be a little bit of excitement around Caleb, growing as a player, and nobody, I don't think anybody's trying to rush him into a role with Edmonton as far as the fan base goes, but I think we're certainly, pretty excited to see him grow and hopefully be a full-timer. I watched his development camp interview. I've watched a number of other interviews. He's a well-spoken young man, so you've done a good job there. But how does that all feel, being a part of this and seeing, hey, this is my kid they're talking about, right? Like, how's that as a parent?
Oh my goodness. I don't even know how to put that into words. It's, you smile. Like when you see these interviews, you just smile. And Caleb, I feel like Seth could take a few lessons from Caleb with the media. Caleb enjoys the conversation. Caleb literally, this is a true story. When he was a Bantam, even starting maybe at Pee Wee, we would go to hockey tournaments, and Caleb would say, "Come get me later." I'm like, "No, we need to go eat. You've got a game tomorrow." And he just wanted to be left at the rink, and he would just go watch other teams' games. True story. Every tournament, he would stay and watch other teams' games. He literally is a scout. He's a young scout. And so he's always enjoyed a whole nother side of hockey other than just playing it. But watching him talk to the media, he enjoys that conversation. He enjoys the talk of hockey. I see him, and it's like, I tell Seth, I'm like, why don't you smile like that in your interviews? Like, the fans really like that. Like, Seth is funny. He is the best at one-liners, and he's got a great sense of humor that you would never know that.
Yeah.
Because he's all business, and he really wants to be the consummate professional, where Caleb is a little bit looser. Not much, but he is, and so I really enjoy watching Caleb's interviews, and I think he enjoys that. But it's so amazing seeing him grow into what he's going to do. And I have to say, the Oilers fans and the whole Twitter community, it is so much fun because I am a fan. I am a sports fan. We are a sports family, so we sit at home and watch. We watched the playoffs last year when Seth's team was out, and we say the same things that you guys say. That I say you guys, that the fan base says, so and so, what an idiot, or my God, we are doing the exact same thing with NBA or football or other hockey teams. We sit and do the same thing. We just don't go online and tag the guy in it and tell him we think he was that he didn't get enough sleep last night or lay off the alcohol, whatever joke we're making.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing that probably bothers me a little bit with my kids is not knowing who's actually tagging them and, literally just being mean to a human being, because no one wants to make those mistakes, and I learned this when Seth was 14. I'm probably going way off base here, but I remember it was Bantam Nationals in Dallas, and he turned the puck over behind the net, and the other team scored, wrapped around and scored, and he got in the car. I was like, I can't believe you did that. Like, what were you thinking? And he said, yeah, this is the last time I've ever said something like that. He said, yeah, Mom, I really wanted to do that. My goal was to embarrass myself, turn the puck over, and let the other team score. And I realized in that moment, none of them, that's not their goal. None of them want that to happen, particularly on a bigger stage. That's not the plan. It's not intentional. Do they get lazy sometimes? Yes. Are there the nights that they just don't have it? It's like when I go to the gym, and there's some days I can get on the treadmill and run and feel like and the next day it's like, what is going on with me? I can barely breathe. But the fans and the Oiler Nation, they have been so awesome. Like when Caleb would make a mistake, they're like, "Oh, I'm like, no, keep going. Don't leave me out. Do not leave me out. I feel you here." But it's a lot of fun, and I got to tell you, I'm so excited that Caleb was drafted by Edmonton and gets to experience that. I mean, they know their hockey. And sometimes that's good and it's bad. Sometimes you don't. It's better if you're making mistakes that they don't really know. But it's just really exciting, and it's different. And Columbus is amazing, and Seth, it's perfect for him. But it's really different when you get to see a non-traditional hockey market compared to the Edmonton Oilers. That hockey market. It's unreal. It's absolutely unreal, and I'm just so thankful that Caleb gets to be a part of it.
That's excellent, and I can imagine that. Yeah, there's a big difference. Of course, growing up in Canada, hockey is king here, and so it's so much of our, so much of our sporting culture. I to this day I still travel all over the place to play and continue to play and love the sport. And I want to say, that we're happy to have him as part of the team, and we've I can tell you, having conversations all the time about the Oilers, that the fan base is excited about what's to come for Caleb on this team, and some of the talents specifically that he has that could really help move this team hopefully to the next level. So on another note, I mean, let's switch gears for a little bit, because I think, my understanding is, from what I've been able to read, is you weren't you didn't really understand hockey until it was introduced to the boys, and was it Joe Sakic, if I'm right, that introduced hockey originally to Seth and the boys?
No. Well, actually, it was the Stars came to Dallas, and my ex-husband and I went to a game. He was with the Mavericks at the time, and we ended up going to a game. It was a playoff game. It's the first game we'd ever been to, and I think the Stars were playing the Red Wings, and we kind of were, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So that's our first introduction to hockey, and we actually started watching it, becoming fans, but didn't know anything about the game. And then we happened to move a few years later to, we're in Toronto, but the kids were very young. And then in Denver, then all of that came about. We were fans. The Avs were playing the Stars in the playoffs, a lot back then. Mm-hmm. And it just seemed that all the kids that my kids were making friends with all played hockey. And so that's how it started. And then Popeye ran into Joe Sakic at the arena, and it was just like, my kids, I think they want to start playing hockey now. What would you recommend? And he said skating. Like, it has to be skating. Skating's the most important thing. And so, of course, you only have to tell me once.
I'm getting that impression. Yeah,
I had them at the rink like 6 days a week in the summer for open skate, and then I found a skating coach, and started getting them lessons 2 or 3 times a week, and then I put them, and it just went from house, and then they went straight from house to the Mite A super team or whatever, and and it's never stopped from that point on.
And did you know, was there a feeling? Did you know they'd be as successful as they've been?
No. I mean, when they first started, no. When they're that young, I don't know. I will say, Seth got into his second year, well, even his first and second year, coaches were just like, gosh, he's just got something. His skating was excellent. Every coach he's coachable. Like, he's coachable. You kind of get that when they're young. He's coachable. And Caleb was tiny. Caleb was 3 or 4, but we still had him like a little mini Mite.
Yeah.
And but yeah, Seth, I would say from like 8. He's just something. He's had something since he started. And even when he was like 8 or 9, we'd be at a tournament, and then that's when we get people from Toronto, or Edmonton, or the Canadian people like, hey, does he want to come play a spring tournament with us?
Yeah.
We have this team we put together in the spring, and things like that. So started doing that at like 9, 10, 11 years old. He did that every single summer.
Oh, wow.
So we would be in Toronto for the Canada's Wonderland tournament. He played with the Boston team, and there was a tournament in Edmonton. We were there a couple times. He did the brick tournament in Edmonton.
Yeah.
With the LA hockey team. He was their add-on that year. It's when you could have one out-of-town kid.
Yeah.
So he's just kind of been doing it forever, and everywhere we go, there'd be someone else like, hey, why doesn't he come play with us in the spring? So we've just met so many people from everywhere with him. Caleb, I actually thought was going to be better. Caleb was a little bully, and he was a forward, and he would score 5 or 6 goals a game, and all the parents that did not know he was my kid would be like, he's that kid over there, he's a bully. Like, watch out. And I would be like, that's my child. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because he was bigger than everyone. So any kid that, like, if he wanted to be in front of him in line, we're talking like 4 and 5 years old. Yeah. He would literally just, when no one was looking, just go shoulder the kid down and then just move right in front of him. He was big for someone at that age. So I was so proud of that. I was like, that's my son. The bully.
That's my son.
He wasn't mean.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
I would never let my kids be mean. But yeah. So, and he was a forward all the time. He didn't become a defenseman until I think scored or peewee.
Yeah. And
you get me started talking, and I just go off, and then I end up somewhere else. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, you know what? That's fine. I'm happy to hear. I mean, these are stories, obviously, that you've probably recounted a million times, and no doubt though they're heartfelt and good stories. And I think one of the things that and we'll and maybe we'll wrap it up after is what I want to know, because you've had 2 boys now that have gone through the NHL draft process, and funny, I wanted to go look through my Twitter feed, because there was a play that Seth Jones did earlier this year that I tweeted about, that was, if Seth wants the puck, he's going to take the puck, and and he's definitely a special player to watch. But in looking for that clip, I found one from the 30th of June in 2013. So I'll have I've been a Seth Jones fan since that time, and my tweet was that I thought he should be in the top 3, and I said I'd be trading up to get this guy. Of course, he went 4th. He probably should have gone top 3. Pardon me. Anyway, so I'm curious. You have one son that goes 4th overall, and then Caleb, a couple of years ago, is drafted in the 4th round. What's that like? For you. You're watching your son, and you see. How good he is, right? I mean, you've been watching him your whole life. But there's probably 20 or 30 defensemen on that have been drafted ahead of him that will never see an NHL game. And I suspect we'll see way more of Caleb. So you knew all along that he had that capability, but then you're looking at these, other defensemen that are going down the lineup. Is it, what's that like? Is that tough to watch him? Was it tough for him that were you engaged that day, the day 2 of the NHL draft, that day to watch and hear?
Wait, for Seth or for Caleb?
For Caleb, I'm talking. Yeah, I look at that draft and there's a lot of guys that he could have went ahead of if you look backwards now, right? What was
You
that
want to
like
know
for
it's
you?
crazy.
Yeah.
Steph's job was much more difficult to get through than Caleb's.
Oh, really? Okay.
But Caleb, yeah, that is going to sound crazy. It's so true. The 10 minutes that we had to sit there for Seth was far longer than the hours that we had to sit there for Caleb. It was, if you can believe that, in the big joke, as Seth would keep with, Caleb was looking at his watch. But we knew Caleb should have went. We thought he should have went early third round.
Mm-hmm.
But in our opinion, third round. But we knew he didn't have the best 2 years at the U.S. program.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't, their go-to, guy. And we feel like that set him back a little bit because no one really knew what he was capable of or what his talents were. He was always a offensive defenseman growing up. In those 2 years, they had offensive defensemen. You had Borwinski for a year, and you had Noah Hannafin, and the list goes on. And so they wanted him to be a stay-at-home defenseman. They didn't want him making the moves at the blue line. And just so you know, I'm not complaining. I'm letting the story.
Yeah.
So he really, his creative outlet in hockey and the things that he was used to doing growing up, the things he worked on in the summer, he wasn't actually being able to do, to implement into a game. So had the draft been the following year after he got out of it, the U.S. program and went to Portland, I think he would have went second or third round. But it just happens to be the timing of the draft where he was in his career at the time is what put him there. So we understood why he went there. And it wasn't that difficult to to come to grips with for that reason, is we understood what the questions were and why, a scout or a team would be hesitant to take him.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. So if you're, in that situation where you kind of have a bit of an understanding and the talent level, and for Seth, then you said, that's a long 10 minutes. Was he aware at the time that Nashville was interested? Obviously, I think when you're talking the first round, every step you fall or every step you raise up is a big deal, right? And so, was he expecting top three, or what was his expectation?
100%.
Yeah,
100%. He was expecting to go number one.
Excellent.
Until a few days before, maybe a week before. Don't quote me on that. A week or two, it could have been when Patrick Waugh had taken over in Colorado, and he went ahead and told Seth's agent, Pat Brisson, that he was going to take Nathan. And he had been coaching in the Quebec League, and his team had played against Halifax, which, how do you go wrong with Nathan MacKinnon? Let me throw that out there. And
yeah.
We are really good friends with his family, and I love them. And oh my God, he's a superstar. So how do you go wrong with that decision? But we thought for sure Colorado needed a defenseman. And so there was no question he was going number one. And then, and that was kind of the thing. And what you saw with Jack Hughes the other night, they had Seth on the phone after the lottery pick, because they just assumed he was going number one.
Yeah.
But then Patrick Waugh came out and just flat out said, no, I'm taking Nathan MacKinnon. And then it was, Florida or Tampa. We never dreamed it would be anything beyond. And then back at that point, when you got to the draft, a lot of those guys wanted to interview you. And so he went to interviews with all of them. And Steve Yzerman said to him, I don't think you're going to be at 3, but if you are, I'm taking you. Well,
wow.
He went number 4.
Yeah.
So we're clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of lessons learned here. Don't believe everything people tell you, number one. And but anyway, So that's kind of how all that went down. So we're sitting there, we have no idea. And then, the second pick comes, and then the third pick comes, and he's really sure he's going to Tampa because, well, he just sat in a meeting, the day before
Yeah.
and was told that. But then his agent comes over and he's like, I think they're going to take Druin, but everything works out the way it's supposed to. My gosh, like Shea Weber, Roman Yossi, to go to that organization
Yeah.
and to get to develop under those defensemen, there's not a better captain than Shea Weber. The way he pulled Seth in under his wing, it was it really transformed him, and he really taught him what you're supposed to be, how it's supposed to be. And, who knows what would have happened had he been somewhere else, but it all worked out.
Yeah, it sure did. And he's doing quite wonderfully in Columbus. He's a treat to watch. Both your sons are fun to watch. Both great players, and I prior to this, I was a fan. Prior to talking to you, seeing you interact with the Oilers fan base has been great, and we get a little bit of insight, into the life of a hockey family, which I think you can safely be qualified as a hockey family. So you've got.
I was like, because I moved to. I'm sorry. Go on.
No, you go ahead.
I said I moved to Nashville. We just knew Seth was going to be in the league his first year, so we had to still that he was going to have to live with his mother the first few years, and so we did that. Now I'm teasing Kale. I'm like, I think you're going to have to live with your mom. I'm thinking I'm going to have to come. You're going to have to live with your mom. He's like, he was 18, Mom. I'm 21. I'm like, no, I really think we should talk about this. And he's like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Right.
And then, of course, that night I'm down there taking pictures, and he's like, I'm taking pictures with the fans. Like, I'm so excited to be there and to be a part of it. He's like, Mom, what are you doing? Like, who is this? I'm like, this is my cheer squad. Like, these are my buddies. We're cheering for you. I had them rooting for you.
I can't.
I'm really hoping he has an opportunity to, get in a little bit more time next year, if not, permanently up there, so I can, come to the games and spend more time in Edmonton and really get to enjoy that experience.
Yeah, as do I think a number of us. Hope he gets that opportunity, and he's certainly got a learning experience ahead of him going into the playoffs here with Bakersfield. I think that's going to start middle of April, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Are you? Will you get a chance to get out to some Bakersfield games in the playoffs?
Yes, I am. I sure am. I am actually planning my weekends around the hockey playoffs. So this weekend, I will be in Columbus. I'm going to Sunday's game and Tuesday's game, and then I'm coming back to work because I do have to work.
Yeah.
And then when Bakersfield's schedule comes out, then I'll be there next weekend, wherever that happens to be. Those games are. I'll fly whether it's in Bakersfield or somewhere else. I'll make a game or two there. And then hopefully Seth has moved on to the second round, and then I'll go the next weekend there. And I'll just keep going back and forth each weekend until it's over. Hopefully that's June sometime.
That's right. Well, Amy, I do hope the best for both your boys. Seth, he's been, and I've said this a couple times today. He's been fun to watch. He's a treat, and what a goal last night, and a clutch goal at that. And of course, certainly rooting for Bakersfield to go as far in the playoffs as they can, and for that experience just to be an amazing experience for them. I do want to thank you.
Well, I have a question for you.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Before you force me off the phone, Michael.
Yeah.
How do you guys? I have a question. Since I'm not there, what are you guys thinking?
Oh, you cut out. Did I?
That like since you're in Edmonton, you've got to have more of an idea than just what's out there. So, I mean, what is your outlook for the Oilers team? Like, what do you think? I was freaking out when I thought Connor broke his leg or something, though. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, well, I was at the game.
Had a heart attack.
I was at the game, and yeah, I was in the same boat as you. Well, so this is the interviewee becoming the interviewer, is it?
Well, no,
Yeah.
I'm actually really curious. Like, we could even be off of. We don't even have to talk about this on the air.
I'll gladly put this online. What's my view on the outlook for the Oilers for next season? Well, I think which has always been. And it actually ties in quite well with our conversation, because one of the main keys that I've thought with this team over the course of the past 2 years has been the lack of what we call puck moving defensemen, right? Of course, we've had some injury problems, and I think more injury problems than have been made sort of public, you can say, is my suspicion. And
Right.
and when I look at this team, I look at there's guys like Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, and they are the utmost of special players. They are superstars.
Mm-hmm.
They from a offensive perspective, they, whether they have a puck moving defenseman or not, they're going to be fine. They just, they are capable of running a shift on their own. Both ends of the ice. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is in that classification. And then we have, this kind of middling pack of forwards.
Underrated, in my opinion.
Nugent-Hopkins, yeah, I agree with you. He's outstanding.
Okay.
And then we have this, I think, middling group of forwards that are very capable NHLers, a number of them. However, given any other team, they would be getting the puck while they're on the fly, and having the capability to exit out of the zone and expect a puck tape to tape and go with some speed. As you said,
right.
Joe Sakic himself said skating was the number one, key to being a good NHLer. And so those guys, they don't have the talents that Connor McDavid and Draisaitl and Nugent-Hopkins have, that they can just go wherever they want with the puck. They need a little bit of help. And that's not a slight to them. Yeah. It's just that hockey, there's great players on both sides of the ice, right? Both teams. And they're playing NHLers, and they need those players. So, my thinking is, and my feeling is that that's what we're missing. And we've got, prospects in the way of, your son, who can move the puck very well. I love watching him pass the puck. We've got guys like Evan Bouchard, who are, he's doing unbelievable things in the playoffs.
He's doing really good.
Yeah. And there's other defensemen in Bakersfield that are Ethan Bear, right? Like, and these guys, that there's some good talents there. And I think, Caleb has probably said it's probably fun to play with guys that are going to push him to that extra level. We finally have that group of players that can maybe push each other to the next level. And whoever comes out of that, and for your sake and for Caleb's, I hope he's one of them. But we're going to have some next level passers in the next couple of years. And I think the future is bright because we have some real superstars. We've got some players that, we're lucky to watch as fans. Of course, with Connor and Draisaitl and Nuge and there's going to be more players as they go up.
They're so exciting. And wow, what a year for Draisaitl. Oh my gosh. That's so much fun to watch. I mean, because I kind of, when I see this stuff, I think about like as a parent, and I view him as kid. It's like, oh my gosh, what a great breakout year for him. I mean, he's obviously had previous. So I pay more attention this year than I have in previous years.
Yeah, absolutely, and I get that. So I think the future is bright. I think it's probably not number one on Caleb's mind right now because he's got to focus for the upcoming playoffs and they still got a couple games left. But I'm sure the players are all sitting and wondering who the next general manager will be and how they fit into that fold and I think my hope is that the Oilers as an organization find somebody that understands what the vision is and what these players need to carry forward. There's some talented players that I don't think we've seen the best of them. I know we haven't. I have a hard time. What you'll find if you've ever listened to one of my podcasts, which I know wouldn't be.
Haven't.
No, I wouldn't be surprised if you had. I'd be more surprised if you had. But what I find, is or what I don't do is I never. We kind of talked a little bit about this. I don't say that players suck ever because, I've played some competitive hockey in my life, but I've never played in the NHL. And so for me to come out and say, yeah, that player's no good, I know that they've already played more NHL games than I have. And so I'm not that, that guy that feels if a player scores one goal in the NHL, that's one more goal than I've scored in the NHL. And so that's the way I look at it. And I think, these guys get there for a reason. It is the job of the organization to find out the best place to put them. And I think to this date, anyway, as far as an organization goes, the Oilers have not found the right place for those particular players. And so, as Seth is now in Columbus and he's doing well. I think it was the right place either way for him, but there's reasons why some of his was contract related, right? But reasons why you get traded to different areas, and it's not because you're no good, and it's not because Nashville didn't want Seth, as it's because there's pieces and there's a puzzle to play, and so I'm excited for the upcoming season.
And there's money, like you have to make it all fit. And no, I am with you though on because I defend the players in most sports quite a bit, but you do have that occasional guy who doesn't put the team first. And usually you can spot those people in any sport. Yeah. It doesn't take long to figure out who's about the team. Every now and then you do get those people that they're not, because I'm a parent going back to parenting is, like, you're going to give it all. I don't care if you make a mistake. Like, I don't care, like the turnover in the first period. Like, it wasn't for lack of, effort. It was a mistake, but, you don't want to make. But effort is my big thing. Like, you better be there for your team and give it your all. Like, people can see when you're not. I do have a problem with that. Yeah. When you're not giving it your all, that's when we have a right as fans that we pay their bills, we buy these tickets, to be upset. Like, if you just don't, you just don't feel like that player's giving their all. So just throw that in there. But,
no, I admire you for saying that, right?
About saying players, suck or don't suck or whatever. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting.
But I can be disappointed for other reasons.
That is true. And I on the recently I played. I'll play in a lot of charity tournaments, and I had an opportunity to play alongside Ethan Morrow for a few games, former captain of the Oilers. And he asked me, which I had Glenn Anderson ask me in one of these tournaments, and he's a Hall of Famer. But they asked me, like, what's your view as a fan? And Ethan Morrow was a little bit more, alongside with you. He said, look, like, you're paying your ticket values, and I pay 4 tickets at Rogers. I actually live in a city 3 hours away, but had seasons tickets for the Oilers to go watch them this year. Mm-hmm. and Ethan Moreau, who is a former player, and he said, like, you have every right to be mad. And so I don't get mad, but I certainly am really disappointed, and I'll question renewal for the upcoming season, and we'll see what happens. The summer will be a big time, and I hope that it's the right moves for everybody in the organization.
Right. Well, it was so nice talking to you. Thanks so much for. I rambled, but it was so fun. I always have fun talking hockey, and I need to be the interviewer, though. I have so many questions. Well,
you are welcome to be a guest interviewer anytime on the on the show. I am thankful for you giving us your time today, and I know this will be a popular episode. I think people want to listen.
If there's anything that you play back and you think it would not be good, make sure you delete it.
I didn't hear anything in there that was controversial. So no, I think this was a good one. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, protect me, please.
Will do. Thank you so much, Amy.
I need it. Okay. Thanks so much. You have a great day.
You too.
From Section 204, Heavy Hockey Podcast with Michael and Guess. Heavy hockey isn't dead. It's just getting started.